So I finally set my goal for 2026. Now, as you guys probably would have remembered from last year, I set the fitness goal of running my first official marathon. Now, I put out a poll on Instagram for you guys to choose whether you wanted me to complete a fitness-based task, a strength-based task, or a body composition-based task. Now, as always, you guys like to see me suffer and chose the official marathon. My first official marathon ended up in a DNF. I did not finish and passed out at 36 kilometers. However, 4 weeks later, I re-signed up for another marathon and completed it in 4 hours and 20 minutes. I decided that marathons definitely weren't for me. However, I did go on to complete a further 3 half marathons right here in Colombia. So overall, the goal was a massive success. Now this year, I wanted a different challenge, and it was going to be a strength-based challenge. And once again, I put it out on Instagram for you guys to choose which exercise you think would be the hardest to complete. 140 kilo bench press, 180 kilo squat, or 220 kilo deadlift. Now my preference and most enjoyable exercise is probably going to be the deadlift. However, as always, you guys like to see me suffer and chose the squat or the bench press. So I thought, fuck it, why not do all three? So the goal for this year is to be able to complete a 140 kilo bench press, a 220 kilo deadlift, and 180 kilo back squat. Now the reason why I also looked at this task is because I'm turning 35 next week, and I was curious to see if my 30-year-old self could outlift and was stronger than my 20-year-old self. And as always, there's only one way to find out. Now, this challenge definitely comes with its uphill battles of the ability to recover. Now, I definitely cannot recover in my 30s like I could do my 20s. So I'm going to have to train a lot smarter and be a lot more patient with the process. So my current training strategy is going to be 3 workouts per week, all strength-based, full body approach, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On the Monday session, it's going to be more geared towards a bench press and a squat, again, working at 3x5. On the Wednesday session, it's going to be deadlift focus, again, 3x5. And I'm going to repeat both the bench press and the squat on the Friday, as they are my weaker exercises. I'm going to be attaching on some accessory exercises to these workouts, so we're looking at about 5 exercises in total per workout. But again, the predominant focus being on the squat, the deadlift, and the bench press. I also want to maintain some level of fitness. I worked really hard last year to build myself up from a running capacity, and I want to maintain some level of fitness during this period of time. So I'll be adding in approximately 1, maybe 2 exercise bouts per week, where it's going to be purely focused on cardio, and that may be through running, some kind of conditioning session, anything that's going to elevate my heart rate and maintain it throughout that session, looking at anywhere from 30 minutes onwards. So there's no set rules with this one, but it's simply just an addition to the main priority, which is going to be my strength-based workouts. Now I've set a slightly longer term vision with this, and I have no intentions of seeing any return in my efforts for the next 6 months. Yes, I expect to see the numbers progress steadily over time, but I'm not looking to get to this final destination anytime soon. As I said, I'm gonna have to train smarter to avoid injuries. And every week I will assess my recovery capabilities and whether I can afford to push the numbers or not. But I truly believe that I can achieve these numbers by the end of 2026. So that's my workout set in place, and these may differ over time, and I'll keep you up to pace when those changes are made. Now, from a nutritional perspective, nothing is really going to change. I don't want this to become an overwhelming goal. I don't want this to become my only focus. However, my nutrition will be there to support the goal in itself, but I won't be tracking calories to start with, and I won't be weighing out food. However, I will be making more of a conscious effort to consume adequate protein per day. So having at least 4 portions of protein per day, typically coming in the form of whey protein, eggs, Greek yogurt, beef, chicken, and maybe some kind of fish. Now, if I find that my recovery does start to suffer over time, then I will go down the route of tracking calories to make sure that I'm eating adequate food. However, again, I'll keep you up to speed as and when that changes. Now, in regards to supplementation, I'm terrible with supplements, and the only one I can ever remain consistent with is whey protein. However, I will be looking at supplementing with creatine because it's an obvious no-brainer when it comes to supporting my ability to lift stronger, perform at higher intensities, and once again, to help aid my recovery. So my expectations for this goal is that my biggest struggle will come in the format of the squat. I don't ever recall ever being able to squat more than 160 kilos, and that was me at my peak in my mid-20s. However, what I would also say is I probably never pushed myself as much on something like the squat relative to the bench and the deadlift, purely because I enjoy the bench and the deadlift more. But I definitely feel that I'm going to have to refine my technique across all 3 lifts to make sure that I'm getting the most bang for buck, and to make sure I'm doing things as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Now, when it comes to things like alcohol, as you guys will know, I'm a big beer drinker and I enjoy my social life. So things on that front, again, will not change. Like I said, I do not want this goal to take over my lifestyle, and I believe that I can still hit these targets even with my social life and beer consumption in place. Once again, there will be times when I will scale back on the alcohol consumption to favor my goal, but it definitely will not be eliminated. I still managed to achieve all my goals last year, and alcohol was part of my weekly schedule, whether that was 1 beer or 10 beers as part of a big social event. However, as I said, if I feel like I need to scale back in order to enhance my ability to sleep better and therefore recover better in order to push and progress at a more consistent pace with the 3 big lifts, then I'll be willing to make that sacrifice. So I'll continue to keep you posted on this journey more frequently on Instagram. However, I will be doing roundups every 2 to 3 weeks here to keep you updated with how the progress is going. So as always, guys, hopefully you found that insightful. Any questions on the goal itself, again, hit them in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and go follow me on Instagram at TA Fitness Online.